Hey everyone, welcome to today's video. Today we're going to be talking about the 2028 presidential race, the way too early to talk about, for that matter, 2028 presidential race. And we're specifically going to talk about the Democratic Party's likely nominee or possible nominees heading into that election in 2028 and who the Democratic Party might nominate for that race. So, given the news that we've seen out in recent weeks, from Donald Trump's disapproval rating to seeing Democrats overperform in special elections to seeing them overperform in general off-year elections, the question for voters is, well, what is the alternative going to be heading into 2028? Because for a lot of people, they're looking for something else. And this also applies to the 2026 midterms. We're seeing voters decide to take a different approach than maybe they did in 2024. They gave Donald Trump and his administration a shot to lead, and ultimately a lot of voters aren't satisfied with that. And that's just proven in polling. So the question heading into 2028 is, who can the Democrats nominate to energize voters, get turnout out, and defeat Republicans? And the answer to that question is quite complex, if I'm being completely honest. I want to begin by talking about some of the polling in this race for the Democratic nomination in 2028. For the most part, with a few exceptions of outlier polls, I guess maybe more than outliers, but with a few exceptions, Kamala Harris is leading the pack amongst voters who say that they would vote for her and her campaign to be the nominee for the Democrats again. Now, given there are some polls that have Gavin Newsom up, some that have him close, etc., but that is the likeliest candidate, I should say at this point, that has the most support is Kamala Harris. And it's undoubtable. She's the former Democratic nominee for the Democratic Party in 2024, and she's not necessarily stepped out of the spotlight completely in that regard. So she's certainly one that people are already rumoring she might step into the ring and run for this race to be the Democratic Party's nominee in 2028. This was also fueled when she decided to not run for that California governor's race. She had the opportunity to be the front runner in that election. Frankly, I mean, if she had ran, she would have likely ran and won the race as a whole in November of this year. But she decided to not run for that race, instead leaving her future unknown and up for debate. So if Kamala Harris decides to run, will she be the nominee? Well, that's a really good question, and one that I don't think we quite have the answer to. If Kamala Harris runs, she's certainly going to start as the front runner. She's the former vice president, she's the former Democratic nominee. But that's to say, I don't think that she is going to have it just made easy for her, should I say, this next go around if she decides to run. She's almost certain to have primary opposition from candidates like Pete Buttigieg to Gavin Newsom, AOC, Pritzker, Josh Shapiro. Who knows who will run? But at this point, it's very likely that Kamala Harris, if she chooses to run, will not be the only Democrat. I could almost say with certainty she will not be the only prominent Democrat to run for this race. She's almost certain to have some sort of competition. And I think that could be beneficial to her, and it could also hurt her. We're already seeing Gavin Newsom overperform her in some polling. Not all, but there are some polls that have Gavin Newsom ahead of her. And this is interesting heading into 2028 when a lot of voters really like what Gavin Newsom's doing in California from his redistricting plot. When Texas redistrict, he said that he was going to propose a response effort, and voters overwhelmingly supported this measure. In fact, he was out on the campaign trail supporting it, and Gavin Newsom's name has been out there. Kamala Harris laid low for half of last year. So it's certain that Gavin Newsom or someone like him is going to have that name recognition and people seeing his name in the news saying, well, Gavin Newsom's responding to what President Trump is doing, and I appreciate that, at least from the Democratic voter standpoint. So I want to go ahead and look at some of the nationwide polling in the 2020 Democratic primary race for the presidency in 2018. So right now we're in the year of 2026. In fact, early 2026. January, February is the polls we're typically looking at this time of the year. And we're typically talking about the midterm elections, but I wanted to take a pause from that and talk about this specifically. So in 2018, 2 years out, similar to where we're at today, we're 2 years out from the Democratic Party's, or from the 2028 presidential race, I should say. We're about 2 years out from it, and what voters had to say and who they supported as the nominee back then. So if we go to early January, we see one poll that has Bernie Sanders up, but all of the other polls having none other than Joe Biden up. Now, why is this important? Because Joe Biden went on to be the Democratic nominee in 2020. That's not to say that Joe Biden had it made easy for him. In fact, Iowa and New Hampshire, he lost. It wasn't until South Carolina that Joe Biden began doing well in the primary race and ultimately ended up dominating Super Tuesday and going on to win that Democratic nomination. So these polls really truly mean nothing at this point in the race. But it is interesting to kind of look at the perspective. You know, we see Emerson College poll had Biden up. We see all sorts of polls heading all the way through the year of 2018 have Biden up. If we go to 2020, I'm pretty sure it's here. Let me see. Or 2019, I apologize. Misspoke. So this is October to December 2018 polling. So same thing, Joe Biden is up. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to find... This is 2019. Okay. Joe Biden up in every single poll except for one. Emerson College had one where Elizabeth Warren somehow was the... Oh, it's because Joe Biden was not on this poll. So that's the reason for that. So yeah, interesting enough, Joe Biden actually went on to be the Democratic nominee, and that was certainly interesting for not only Democrats, but for voters who supported someone like Bernie Sanders, someone further left, and it was a point for primary voters to make their say, and they did in 2020, and it happened to align with polling that we had 2 years out. So it is to go to say that the polling can matter, and it can reflect what we'll see 2 years from now, but it's not certain to, and that's the important measure. Now, with this said, that's why I want to look at another race. Instead of Democrats, I'm going to look at Republicans. This is the 2016 GOP nomination in the year of 2014, 2 years out from this election. I would take a look at the polling from the Democratic Party primary, but I don't think it's as interesting and important as this polling from the Republicans is. So I want to point it out and just sideline the fact that this is a Republican primary versus Democrats, but it's still important, and it still goes to show some of the facts that we see. So I want to point something out from the very beginning. If we look at candidates on this list, we see people like Jeb Bush, Chris Christie, Ted Cruz, Mike Huckabee, John Kasich, Rand Paul. We see people like Marco Rubio. These types of people decided to run for president in 2016. Now, the one name you don't see on here is the man who became the Republican nominee in 2016 and ultimately went on to become the 45th and 47th president of the United States, Donald Trump. His name wasn't on polling here 2 years out. If we go up and we look at polling, at other polling in 2014, late polling of 2014, still no sign of Donald Trump. If we go to 2015 polling, that's when we start to see him. In fact, we started to see Donald Trump, who, interesting enough, actually had support when he announced his candidacy. I'm trying to find, let's see. I should have done this before the video. This is my apologies. Some of the early 2015 polling to just go to show you the difference. Yes, so here we go. Some of the 2015 polling had Donald Trump up, some of it didn't. I wanted to go a little further back as well. Yeah, so February, we began to see polling with... Oh, nope, I'm lying. I'm sorry. So yeah, we didn't even see polling up through May with Donald Trump's name on it. It wasn't until... Let me make sure I say it correctly. Yes, until it appears to be May that we began seeing Donald Trump and him on polling numbers and where he stood. So 2 years out from the 2016 election, there was no sign that Donald Trump necessarily was going to run, I should say. I guess some could argue that they knew it 2 years out. But the polling did not reflect what we actually seen that ended up happening. Donald Trump wiped out this primary, essentially, saying to this establishment, we're going to do something different. So establishment candidates like Ted Cruz, who was the senator from Texas at the time, Marco Rubio, who was the senator from Florida at the time, Jeb Bush, the former governor of Florida, and son to former President George H.W. Bush. So we had prominent names on here, and Donald Trump went on to defeat all of them, not only in the Republican primary, but in the general election. So what's to say if that happens in 2028, and we have someone who we're not even expecting to run, and ultimately they end up performing in a incredible way, and end up absolutely dominating the Democratic field? Is it possible? Is it likely? I'll let you decide that for yourself, but I certainly wanted to make note of it. Now, with that said, I want to thank you guys so much for watching today's video. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Who do you think the Democratic nominee in 2028 is going to be? Let me know in the comments below. Make sure to subscribe and like the video. Check out any other videos on my channel. I would love for you guys to stick around and watch some of my other content. And let me know what you think, again, about this video in the comments below. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Thanks so much for watching.